Whittier, California. When I was younger, this town was mostly legendary to me for being the home of Marty McFly's high school in the original Back to the Future movies. But the older I got, the more the word Whittier brought to mind just one thing. Oceanic Arts, the legendary tiki and tropical supply company, which since 1956 has supplied or been supplying every tiki, tropical, nautical, or jungle-themed attraction, bar, restaurant, you name it. Not just in this country, but around the world. The founders of the company, Bob VanOosting and LeRoy Schmaltz, who you've seen several times on this channel before, got into the tropical arts and decorating business in the middle of last century, right at the dawn of the heyday of tropical and tiki-themed entertainment, tiki bars, backyard luau's, Polynesian architecture, and stuck it out for so long that they became the preeminent tropical decor suppliers the world over. This has always been a serious, happy place for me. It's been my pleasure to know Bob and LeRoy and visit with them multiple times over the year, even filming them sometimes. So it pains me to bring you guys the news that after 65 years in business, the time finally came for Oceanic Arts to close to the public. There was, of course, the age of its founders, the global pandemic and supply problems, but really, after 65 epic years in business, it was just time. And so in November of 2021, Oceanic Arts closed its doors to the public, ushering in the end of an era. But I didn't just come here to tell you bad news. After all, it's been a while. You could have looked that up for yourself. The bad news is what it is, but what I wanted to do was tell you guys about the good news, which mostly revolves around this. But it's starting to rain right now, so to show it to you, we're gonna leave Oceanic Arts and head for safer waters. But don't worry though, gang. We may in fact get to see the inside of that little piece of paradise again. Oh, but I'm giving too much away. Let's go. All right, a little traffic, a little rain, one haircut later, and we're finally back home. It's still a huge mess in here at the moment, or I guess the more positive way to put it is, it's still a work in progress. And it really doesn't help that instead of finishing up the organizing all at once, I've been doing projects in here at the same time. See, my tiki garden kind of went on the back burner last year, but before I was done, I started adding all these rolls of bamboo to cover up the gross kind of concrete block wall back there. And at first, to hold them up, I was just using plain 2x4s, but then I realized I've been sitting around watching LeRoy doing this stuff on and off for years. I should probably actually take a stab at grabbing a router and carving out some posts to hold this up for myself. Well, recently, my friend Adam the Woo moved back out of California, and when he and his roommates moved out, I inherited 4 more rolls of bamboo, which means I'm gonna need quite a few more posts, which is one of the projects I've been working on and alluding to in previous videos. I mean, to serious woodworkers, this wouldn't be considered anything too fancy or too intricate, particularly where it got kind of wobbly because this is not really ideal wood. As a matter of fact, this wood here you might recognize was the old giant green shelf thing that held up my hand-painted signs at the booth back in the day when I had more of them to put on offer. But it's cooler looking and more fun than just a plain 2x4. Since Oceanic Arts has now closed its doors, I figure now more than ever, probably a good time to start getting used to doing stuff like this for myself. Particularly since I've asked LeRoy 1,000 questions about doing stuff like this over the years. And he'd always be so excited to tell me, oh, this and that, and show me different work that he'd done. Oh, it's easy, you can get this, buy this kind of bit. And it'd just go in one ear and right out the other one, and I've forgotten more than most people ever knew. A master was trying to teach me things. And actually, before I lose the rest of the sunlight, I should probably do a little more work on here. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be bummed out about Oceanic Arts closing, and very few more so than myself. I mean, I've been going there for years and snooping around, prying into corners, asking probably way too many questions and annoying those guys to death. I'm not just worried about where we're going to get bamboo, of course. It's where am I going to see my friends Bob and LeRoy? What about the legacy? And that is why the book is not just so important, but so incredible. It's called Oceanic Arts, the Godfathers of Tiki, and for very good reason. These guys were involved from everything from Trader Vic's to Don the Beachcomber to Disneyland, Adventureland, the Polynesian Resort, carving, selling, and shipping items that traveled all around the world, including back to the islands. And probably most importantly, they just had their finger in nearly every kind of tiki, jungle, oceanic pie you can possibly imagine. Everything from tiki apartments to the gates of Adventureland to literally those little carved signs in every Trader Joe's grocery store. Now, I was lucky enough to be, I think, the third person on the planet to get a copy of this book to review and check out. And the first question everybody asks me is it worth it? Because almost the first thing everybody does is go look it up online and see the price tag. Well, obviously, I'm gonna say it's worth it. Otherwise, I would never be telling you guys about a book, no matter how much I liked the people that it was about. But the number one thing about this is the proportions. The proportions of it. It's so wide and so tall. I mean, look at the size of it. I'm not a small, tiny man, even though I am only this big on a phone. I mean, dude, would you look at the size of this thing? And it's darn heavy, too. The proportions are deceptive because it's hiding the fact that this is nearly a 500-page book, if not a little over. Because, I mean, just opening up to a random page here, this is page 199, and we're not even halfway through. Oh, yes, confirmed. A little over 500 pages, and the crazy part is that every page in the entire book is jam-packed with tiki goodness. All along the side of the book, from front to back, as you see here, you have the first-hand interviews of Bob and LeRoy, which basically amounts to the first-hand story of the whole world of tiki as told by two guys that were there firsthand to witness it. And believe me, it's an absolutely fascinating read. What I love about this book is that this section here is so big and so long and contains so much information that it could be its own book that would end up being remarkably thick. We're talking War and Peace or something. It's a lot of words. What makes this book so amazing is that it doesn't cut any corners. Look at the size of that layout right there. Here in the Disney section, you have full double-facing pages with gigantic vintage pictures, artwork, artifacts. So not only are you getting Bob and LeRoy's story over 65 years in business, which, believe me, is one of the greatest stories ever. I mean, the legacy is incredible. And that, by the way, doesn't just mean what they did and when, but oftentimes how they did it and who they did it with. I mean, this book touches on nearly every notable tiki carver, decorator, or artist all over the world. Ceramics and tiki mugs. I mean, just everything you can think of, including lamps, catalogs, masks, and totems, where they went, and fascinatingly, a lot of times, how they made them. I mean, my hand is 8.5 inches from the base of my palm to the tip of my middle finger, and look at the size of these illustrations. There's so many details. You can get so inspired by the artwork. And that's not even mentioning all the amazing tiki temples that have existed over the year. All the various restaurants, bars, attractions. I don't care how into tiki you are or how much you know about it. There is stuff in here that nobody has ever seen or heard before, and it will blow even the most ardent tiki enthusiast absolutely away. I might be showing too much of this book now. These are two guys who are legends. They are very important to me. Their trip around the islands in, what is it, 1960, somewhere around there. Oh, I forgot. We've got the book. We can look it up. Here we go. Oh, just as I thought. 1960, their big trip. One of the most fascinating parts of the story is included here in pretty substantially illustrated detail. Now, the crazy part about this is that I've been telling Bob and LeRoy for years, literally over and over again, hey man, you guys should let me scan all those old pictures or sit down with you guys and do a more in-depth, like maybe a documentary or something. Even one of the last times I went down there where I was in the warehouse when they were actually closed to the public during COVID, I was telling Bob, like, come on, dude, you guys have got to write a book down or let me scan the pictures and do that documentary we've been talking about or something. He was like, well, you know, kind of cagey. Little did I know that they actually were working on this with Peekaboo Gallery, documenting 65 years of history in just absolutely incredible fashion. I'm telling you, if you're a fan of anything exotically themed, anything mid-century themed, anything to do with Disneyland, Tiki, Oceania, or just art in general, this book is absolutely worth every penny of the price tag. So that's part of the good news. Oceanic Arts is closed, but there's this incredible book. But wait, I am not finished with the good news yet. Now, I don't have all the details, and the details I do have, I'm not allowed to share all of them. But this isn't all just about putting out a radical, self-published, by the way, no corners cut book. Look, all 4 corners are still there. It's also about sending off Bob and LeRoy and celebrating their legacy in a big way. So as I mentioned, there's going to be a big auction of all the crazy, amazing things. And believe me, there are treasures stashed away in the Oceanic Arts warehouses. Oh, that's right, I said warehouses. So not only is that going on, but, and this is the part where I might get in trouble, so I'm gonna try not to say too much, there are also going to be some very special events designed to celebrate the legacy of Bob and LeRoy, and for all those fans of Oceanic Arts out there to feel like they got a chance to participate in that legacy and say farewell. And that's all I can really say. I want to say more, but if you want to know more, you'll have to dig for that information where it's going to appear, the same place you can pre-order this book, which is peekaboogallery.com. I want to make something very clear. I am not getting paid to do this in any way. I was lucky enough to get handed a preview copy of this book just so I could check it out, and only because, you know, Jordan, who wrote the book, knows how much I love Bob and LeRoy. Bob and LeRoy know how much I love Bob and LeRoy. And because they know that you guys out there have seen so many of my videos at Oceanic Arts that you would probably be interested in this. So I have now met Jordan, the author of this book, who is a pretty interesting and funny and kind of a cool guy. I like him. He's legit. I know a lot of Tiki people have been asking me, who's this guy? I mean, where did he come out of nowhere? No, he's a guy who loves Bob and LeRoy just as much as I do, and worked for a heck of a long time and very hard on trying to preserve their legacy. And this is really everything they've been working for all these years will be summed up and closed out with this auction and with this book. And so all the proceeds, of course, are going to these 2 incredible gentlemen that worked so hard for 65 years to bring a little piece of paradise to millions of people all around the world. Now, as I'm sitting here talking about this, Allie is literally prepping for surgery. I don't know what order you're gonna see these videos in, so you may have already seen her go in or come out. I have no idea when I'll be able to finish editing this because there's a lot going on here. But the point is that I wouldn't be taking the time to tell you guys about this incredible book and the upcoming events, website, all that kind of stuff if I wasn't 100% behind it and really didn't think that it was important. And if both Bob and LeRoy didn't mean so much to me personally, believe me, I'm just as heartbroken as all those other people. No, they closed, and they closed up the shop very abruptly. And the reason was because, I mean, what would you have done if you'd had advance notice, huh? I know what I would have done. I would have taken a credit card and gone in there and bought everything I could off the shelves. And so would everybody else who has been going in there and taking it for granted that that place would always be around for years and years. We would have pretty much emptied that place. So it's probably for the best. And not just that, I know there were a lot of people who were desperate to get one last chance to go inside, one last chance to send off Bob and LeRoy. But 65, actually 66 now, years of Tiki history means they've got a lot of dang Tiki friends scattered all over the world. And if we were all doing that at once, it would have been quite overwhelming. So the way they did it was probably for the best. So everyone will have a chance to go and bid on Oceanic Arts stuff. All of it is still preserved in there, awaiting the auction, and with this book, a chance to both celebrate Bob and LeRoy and get to know them probably better than most people ever have before. So one very long 65-year chapter may have closed, but the story of Oceanic Arts is far from over, particularly since the work they do is just continuing on, continuing to entertain people, delight people, fascinate people, and will do for years and years to come. On that note, to finish things off, I want to show and tell a couple of Oceanic Arts pieces that I've kept over the years. I'm not exactly a wealthy guy even now, but I never had the money before, and then when I did have a little bit of money, I didn't have the space, and then all of a sudden I had the space, and, you know, the plague came along, shut everything down, shut Oceanic Arts down, and now, of course, they're ending their 65-year run in the warehouse and everything like that. But I do have 2 pieces that I've gleaned and managed to hold on to over the years. One of which is one of these basic masks you may have seen at the entrance to Adventureland and many other tiki bars. This was hand-painted by LeRoy, and years ago I had the wisdom to have LeRoy actually sign it here on the back of it for me. Something that used to hang up in my old tiki bathroom was actually hanging on a tree outside, exposed in my backyard for at least the past year in the sun and the rain. And of course, as soon as I knew I'd never be able to get another one, I snatched it back off the tree. And that whole time I had preserved the signature. Luckily, I had taped over it and kept it carefully, you know, whatever. I kept an eye on it. It's a little cracked and a little weather worn, but still precious to me. And I actually managed to keep another gigantic mask, this time not just hand painted by LeRoy Schmaltz, and all of these were actually handmade in Oceanic Arts with patterns and stuff like that, but one that was custom carved also by LeRoy Schmaltz. This gargantuan abalone yam face mask from the Sepik River in New Guinea. Dude, would you look at the size of this thing? This is one giant hunk of redwood, hand carved and chiseled away and probably chainsawed a little by LeRoy himself, and then of course painted by LeRoy. This one's never been outside. In fact, I believe the story behind this was that they had sold this to someone, and then the person had brought it back, and they slapped a price tag on it, a pretty low price tag, honestly, and it sat in the warehouse for years and years and years. Then after a while, I'd go, hey, what about that low price tag on there? And they'd go, well, that's not really for sale. And years go by, and finally I managed to convince Bob to sell it for similar to the sticker price, and I'll show you the sticker in a second. And I have managed to hold on to this thing for years and years. There's a lot of tikis in Oceanic Arts that were rental props or things that LeRoy had carved and they would rent out to movies and stuff like that I begged him to sell me for years and years, and I never got a chance to get my hands on. I'll take a stab at it at the auction like everybody else, but I don't know. I'm glad at least that I held on to this. And the reason I want to show you the price tag, which is now, oh Jesus, this is heavy, which is now on the back of the piece, but was on the front when I originally got it. The price tag right there is very artfully decorated in classic LeRoy Schmaltz style. But it's not just the front of this price tag that I'm interested in. This thing was on the front of the mask when I got it, and I kept it there for years and years, just like right on his forehead. And just a couple of weeks ago, I went to remove the price tag and then re-staple it here into the back. And once again, I'll unstaple it to show you what it says. Now you see here on the front of the tag, it says Abalone Mask Yam Fetish, right? It's from the yam ceremonies in New Guinea. On the back, you know what? It's not coming off. I'll show you a picture. And on the back, he had written, unknown to anyone for years and years, and uncovered randomly by me in the garage, he had written, I am what I am. And if that doesn't sum up the LeRoy Schmaltz sense of humor, I don't know what does. Oh, anyway, gang, I believe my time is growing short. I've got stuff to help Allie with before she is in the hospital. I appreciate you, though, letting me bend your ear and conducting what is basically the first ever Random Land review on this book here. Like I've said over and over, I highly recommend it. And it really does mean a heck of a lot to me. But for now, that's all she wrote. We've done our duty. We can go home and sleep well. By the way, while you're checking out peekaboogallery.com for the events and sign up for whatever mailing list they have or whatever, follow them on social media, Instagram, and etc. They keep posting a lot of cool pictures from the book right here. While you're going to check out the pre-order of the book, if you have any extra time, head on over to store.randomland.com. We've got some sick merch over there as well. That's my my spiel I'm supposed to say. I feel like I did it. Look at me. Entrepreneurial and whatnot. Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Pick up the book if you can. It rules. All right. Should have just said that from the beginning, right? Would have saved us all a lot of time. Pick up the book. It rules. It's awesome. The end. Which we've the tinily came. I'm getting all messed up, getting emotional. And since Oceanic Arts has now closed its doors. Bob, do you ever just get sick of tiki stuff and just want to go on vacation to Alaska or somewhere?
Never.
I want to thank you guys for joining me today at this look at what I think is a national treasure and certainly a very important piece of pop art history.
Most of the earlier years, people would always say, when are you guys going to get a real job? You know? So.
And he never did.
Never did. So that's pretty much it.